Got to see you back then. 721 on WTIC. Alden Davis is here, myvaluetree.com, and we're going to talk a bit about, this is intriguing, the gap. What does that mean?
Well, mind the gap. If you've ever ridden the tube in London, their subway, you may have noticed signs reading, mind the gap. The gap. That's the space between the car and the platform.
That's where you got this.
It's the void. Mind the gap is a warning to pay attention and avoid hazard. If you went through this week and did not see positive movement toward your goals and desires, then maybe it's time to mind the gap.
Okay, so what are the gaps?
Well, when it comes to star power, the gaps would be the missing pieces in my attitude, my appearance, my abilities, my associations, and my accountabilities. So if you've not written down any of your aspirations, and I mean written them down, any of your desired outcomes for 2010, then it's a gap.
Okay.
If you've not started your LinkedIn profile and built your network, then it's a gap. If you took no positive step this week getting into action, a gap.
Okay.
So the great thing about gaps, though, is most of us can't see our gaps. We are so together. Gaps? Are you kidding? And me?
I'm cool.
That's right. Hey, have you ever heard of scotomas, Ray?
No.
Well,
We're learning a lot here today.
Scotomas, it's actually where the optic nerve attaches to the eye, and there are no receptors there. It's actually a physiological blind spot.
Okay.
So scotomas, we have those in our life too. Blind spots, areas that keep me seeing the truth about myself.
Oh.
You know, I'm too close to me to be objective. And sometimes a spotter is important. People outside of me who can look at me and keep me on track.
Okay.
They see us from a distance. They see us objectively. But the real question is, are we open to hearing what spotters have to say? You know, it's so easy to get defensive and see their comments as critical. Why? Who are they to critique me, I might say. I've had spotters. I windsurf. I work at windsurfing. You know, and a guy paddled up to me once in a kayak, and he said, "Do you know how to sail that thing?"
Well, that sounds, they could have said it better.
Well, aside from that, the guy actually was very helpful, and he was setting up a teaching moment. And if I had chosen to take offense to it, I would have lost a great lesson.
He actually did teach you something.
Oh, yeah. Stand up straighter on the board. I've had the same thing snowboarding. Put all your weight over the front foot. All it takes is somebody outside of you to see some little behavior, give you the critique, and if you're open to hearing it, it can shift your abilities.
Okay.
You know, I had a story this week. Person's interviewing people for a high-end boutique over on Fifth Avenue in New York. And actually, they're having difficulty finding people who have customer-facing skills. So picture this. In comes a young woman who seems to have potential. She presented herself well, and she was likable. And during the interview, Ray, she was chewing gum. Now, the interviewer, acting as a spotter, commented and said, "Is that gum you're chewing?" Now, in a very subtle way, she was saying, mind the gap. This is a hazard. But instead of taking the hint, ditching the gum, and apologizing, the young woman was totally unaware and just said, "Oh, yeah, I really like chewing gum sometimes." And I got to tell you, in that moment, the interview was lost. She fell into the gap. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know it, gum chewing is taboo on the floor of a classy high-end fashion boutique.
I'm so nice and I cursed in New York.
So we can select our spotters or they can be volunteers. The question is, are we open to hearing what they say? So my objective is to reach my aspirations, and any insight helping me get there is appreciated. So are we open to feedback? People are giving us messages all the time, directly and indirectly. So are you mindful of the gaps and open to help? Spotters can be invaluable as we learn to thrive in these uncertain times. Drop by myvaluetree.com. These are our days, Ray. Let our stars shine brightly. I'm Alden Davis.
All right.